Power. What does it mean to you? Is it wealth? Strength? Influence? Today, we reveal stories of individuals who redefined power, not through human means, but through faith, courage, and obedience to God. From Moses to Jesus Christ, their lives hold lessons that can transform yours. Let's uncover the divine secrets of power in the Bible. Welcome to the Divine Watchtower channel. Today, we're diving into the lives of the Bible's most powerful figures. These are not just historical accounts, they are timeless lessons of how God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more inspiring stories. Now, let's get started. Number 1, Moses, the Deliverer. In the grand tapestry of biblical history, few figures stand as prominently as Moses, a man whose life embodied transformation, courage, and unwavering faith. Born into the precarious world of Hebrew slavery in Egypt, his very survival was a miracle. As an infant, he was placed in a tiny basket and set adrift on the Nile River, a desperate act by his mother to save him from Pharaoh's decree of infanticide. Providentially, he was discovered and adopted by Pharaoh's daughter, becoming an Egyptian prince, a stunning twist of fate that would later position him uniquely to lead his people to freedom. Moses' early life was marked by privilege and education. Raised in the royal household, he was trained in the finest schools of Egypt, versed in the advanced knowledge of mathematics, governance, and military strategy. Yet, despite his Egyptian upbringing, he never forgot his Hebrew roots. A pivotal moment came when he witnessed the brutal treatment of Hebrew slaves, and his righteous anger led him to kill an Egyptian taskmaster who was beating a Hebrew worker. This act forced him to flee Egypt, becoming a shepherd in the wilderness of Midian. It was in this remote desert landscape that Moses experienced his profound divine calling. At Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, he encountered the miraculous burning bush, a supernatural phenomenon where a bush burned without being consumed. From within this extraordinary manifestation, God spoke directly to Moses, commissioning him with an unprecedented mission, to return to Egypt and demand the release of the Hebrew slaves from Pharaoh. The encounter at the burning bush, recorded in Exodus 3 verses 2-4, captures the transformative moment. Moses, Moses, I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people the children of Israel out of Egypt. This divine call was not something Moses eagerly embraced. He argued with God, expressing his inadequacy, his fear of public speaking, and his doubts about his own capabilities. Yet, God reassured him, promising to be with him every step of the way. What followed was an epic confrontation with Pharaoh, marked by a series of miraculous plagues that demonstrated God's power over the Egyptian gods. Each plague challenged the religious and political systems of Egypt, culminating in the dramatic exodus of the Hebrew people. The most spectacular moment came at the Red Sea, where Moses stretched out his rod, and God supernaturally divided the waters. Exodus 14 verses 21-22 describes this incredible event, and Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground. But Moses was more than just a supernatural deliverer, he was a profoundly humble leader. Numbers 12:3 provides remarkable insight into his character. Now the man Moses was very meek, above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. Leading over 1 million people through the harsh desert required not just external strength, but internal resilience. Moses relied completely on God's provision, manna from heaven, water from rocks, guidance by a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. His leadership journey was not without challenges. The people he led were often rebellious, complaining about food, water, and the hardships of desert travel. Yet, Moses consistently interceded for them, demonstrating extraordinary patience and compassion. He was a mediator between God and the people, receiving the 10 Commandments and establishing a covenant that would define the spiritual and social framework of the Hebrew nation. Moses' life raises profound questions for anyone facing seemingly impossible challenges. What would you do if God called you to a mission that seemed beyond your abilities? How would you respond to a call that required leaving comfort and security behind? Moses' story is a powerful testament to the idea that with faith, even the most unlikely person can become an instrument of extraordinary change. Though Moses was not permitted to enter the Promised Land, his legacy endured. He had led his people from slavery to the threshold of their divine inheritance, transforming a group of slaves into a nation with a profound spiritual destiny. Number 2, David, the Shepherd King. In the biblical narrative of leadership and redemption, few figures shine as brightly as David, a man whose journey from obscurity to greatness epitomizes the transformative power of faith and divine selection. Born the youngest of 8 sons in Bethlehem, David began his life as a humble shepherd, tending his father Jesse's flocks, a role that would later become a powerful metaphor for his future leadership of Israel. David's early life was characterized by being perpetually overlooked. While his older brothers were paraded before the prophet Samuel as potential candidates for leadership, David remained in the fields, seemingly forgotten. Yet, in one of the most profound moments of divine selection in Scripture, God revealed a profound truth that would define David's entire journey. As recorded in 1 Samuel 16 verse 7, the Lord told Samuel, "Look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." This divine perspective would become the cornerstone of David's remarkable life. When the opportunity arose to demonstrate his faith, he did so with unprecedented courage. The confrontation with Goliath became a defining moment that would echo through generations. Facing a 9-foot giant clothed in impenetrable armor, David stood not with traditional weapons, but with unwavering faith. His declaration in 1 Samuel 17 verse 45 rang out across the battlefield, "Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts." With nothing more than a sling, a stone, and absolute confidence in God's power, David brought down the seemingly invincible Philistine giant. As he transitioned from shepherd to warrior to king, David's leadership was marked by both extraordinary brilliance and deeply human vulnerabilities. He unified the fractured tribes of Israel, transforming them from a collection of competing groups into a powerful, cohesive nation. His most significant spiritual act was bringing the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, establishing a central place of worship and national identity. Yet, David was no perfect hero. His life was punctuated by moments of profound moral failure. His adultery with Bathsheba and the subsequent orchestration of her husband Uriah's death represented a catastrophic moral collapse. But what distinguished David was not his ability to avoid sin, but his capacity for genuine repentance. When confronted with his transgression, he did not deflect or defend but broke before God. Psalm 51 verse 10 captures the depth of his spiritual restoration, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." This prayer represents more than a momentary plea, it embodies a complete surrender, a willingness to be transformed from within. David understood that external success meant nothing without internal integrity. His musical and poetic talents added another dimension to his legacy. The Psalms, many of which he composed, reveal a soul of extraordinary depth, capable of expressing raw human emotion while simultaneously maintaining an intense, intimate relationship with God. From songs of triumphant praise to lamentations of deep personal struggle, David's writings provide a nuanced window into the human spiritual experience. Throughout his tumultuous life, from shepherd to fugitive, from warrior to king, David demonstrated that God's calling is not dependent on human perfection, but on a heart genuinely surrendered to divine purpose. His story is a powerful reminder that our greatest limitations need not define us. Instead, they can become the very platforms through which God's grace and power are most magnificently displayed. David's life poses a transformative question to every generation: are we willing to be chosen by God, not based on our external capabilities, but on the condition of our heart? His journey suggests that true greatness emerges not from personal achievement, but from radical availability to divine direction. Though he was far from flawless, David is remembered not for his failures, but for his passionate pursuit of God, a pursuit that ultimately made him a man after God's own heart. Number 3, Esther, the courageous queen. In the intricate tapestry of biblical narratives, the story of Esther stands as a remarkable testament to courage, providence, and the profound impact of individual choice. Her journey from a Jewish orphan to the queen of the mighty Persian Empire represents one of the most extraordinary transformations in biblical history. Esther's early life was marked by loss and uncertainty. Orphaned at a young age, she was raised by her cousin Mordecai, who became more than a guardian. He was her spiritual mentor and guide. Their story unfolds against the backdrop of the Persian Empire, where Jewish people lived as a marginalized minority, constantly navigating the delicate balance between survival and potential persecution. The circumstances of Esther's rise to the royal position are nothing short of miraculous. When King Ahasuerus sought a new queen, Esther was among the young women brought to the palace. Her beauty was matched by her character, a combination of grace, wisdom, and humility that set her apart. Unlike many in her position, she kept her Jewish identity secret, following Mordecai's counsel, a decision that would prove crucial in the events to come. The turning point of her story arrived with the emergence of Haman, a high-ranking official in the Persian court who harbored a deep-seated hatred for the Jewish people. His plot to systematically destroy the Jews was a chilling precursor to the many attempts of genocide that would mark Jewish history. Haman's hatred was so complete that he convinced the king to issue a decree allowing the extermination of the Jewish population throughout the empire. It was in this moment of existential threat that Mordecai's prophetic words rang out in Esther 4 verse 14, "And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" This powerful statement transformed Esther's personal journey into a divine mission. It suggested that her unexpected elevation to the role of queen was not mere coincidence, but a strategic positioning by God for a specific purpose. The courage required of Esther cannot be overstated. To approach the king uninvited was a death sentence under Persian law. Yet, she made a choice that would define her legacy. As recorded in Esther 5 verse 2, "And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight." Her approach was marked by wisdom. She did not immediately accuse Haman or demand justice, but instead invited the king to a series of banquets, carefully orchestrating a scenario that would expose Haman's true nature. Her strategy was brilliant. Through a series of carefully planned revelations, Esther exposed Haman's plot, revealing her own Jewish identity and the threat to her people. The king's response was decisive. Haman was executed on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai, and a new decree was issued giving the Jewish people the right to defend themselves. Esther's story transcends historical narrative. It becomes a powerful allegory about purpose, courage, and divine positioning. She demonstrates that influence is not about seeking power, but about being prepared to use whatever platform you have for the protection and advancement of others. Her willingness to risk her own life for her people became a defining moment of national salvation. The theological implications of her story are profound. It is one of the few biblical books that never explicitly mentions God, yet his providential hand is unmistakably present. Every seemingly coincidental event, Esther becoming queen, her timing, her approach to the king, speaks to a divine orchestration beyond human understanding. Her legacy poses a challenging question to every generation. Are we prepared to step into difficult positions with courage? Are we willing to use our influence, regardless of the personal cost, to protect those who cannot protect themselves? Esther's journey reminds us that ordinary individuals, when aligned with a higher purpose and equipped with courage and wisdom, can transform seemingly impossible situations. Her story is not just a historical account, but a timeless inspiration, a beacon of hope that suggests that one person, standing in faith and conviction, can indeed change the course of history. And this is just the beginning of our incredible journey through the lives of the most powerful individuals in the Bible. Each of these figures reveals the boundless strength that comes from faith, courage, and the divine calling of God. In the next part, we'll delve even deeper into the remarkable stories of biblical personalities, whose lives continue to inspire millions with lessons of hope, redemption, and divine purpose. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter of this incredible series. Leave a comment below. Who is your favorite biblical hero, and why? Let's continue this conversation together.